So this last week we had a great AirMiners event talking about environmental justice, and there were two ahas that came out of it, not from myself, but from people that attended, people that heard about it. And the first one was like sort of this aha around like, but if it's climate change, does that mean that it's like automatically totally good? And then the second one was that like, this is a really mysterious topic, and even after spending an hour on it, I don't feel like I don't really get it. So I love both of those ahas. The first one around like, isn't it because we're working on climate change, does that mean we just have like, it's automatically good. It's automatically like good for the planet, good for all the people. And what came out of that as an aha was, oh wait, like, no, it's not automatically all good. I think there's this tendency to think that because it's, about the planet or about health or pollution or something, it means that, well, therefore, if anything that you do to address it means that that thing is good too, or that's allowed, or that's benefits everybody, right? Like, no matter how I take carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, isn't that like a net benefit for everybody on the planet? And it turns out, if you start to think about it, like no, it's totally not. Like, if you're thinking about the chemistry that you're using, if you're thinking about the land that you're using, those are elements that can very easily have an effect outside of the limited view of the system that you've designed. And so I think the aha that I heard here from a friend of mine was around like, it's kind of like expanding how you think of your system. Like, it's not just this black box where like air comes in and carbon dioxide gets separated out. There's much more of a system to it. There's chemistry. What happens to those chemicals and materials after their useful life? There's land. What happens? It seems like using less land than more land makes sense economically, but it also makes sense socially, because land and long-term environmental impacts and pollution impacts, those are things that as much as I can diagram a black box engineered system, there are these little leaks, and we start to think about building these systems that scale to planetary size. Then those little leaks at the edge of a system actually become really, really important. And if you're building a planetary size system, or you're building a decade plus lifetime system, you're really starting to think about, gosh, these things, these small little things start to add up after time. So there was this sense of, isn't this automatically good because it's helping the climate? And starting to recognize that, like, well, most people that are in the environmental movement are mostly male, mostly white. And that means we have all sorts of blind spots or limits to the system that we're thinking about. So just start thinking about how to draw that box bigger, how to think about beyond just the mechanical elements, the chemical elements. Start thinking into the economic elements, into the societal elements. Because if you want to build a system that scales, a system that scales to planetary size, a system that scales to running for decades or more, that is where you need to start drawing your system diagram. So the second aha was kind of related, but the spark that I heard was this, basically I came to this session, sat through it, listened, and you know what? My aha moment was, I am just as kind of perplexed or confused, or this whole thing seems just as mysterious as it ever did. And what I loved about that is that's exactly right? I mean, if this was as simple as sitting down and reading a single book, or sitting in a workshop and then eureka, we got it, we wouldn't be here. But really, environmental justice is something that just, it's an ingredient. It gets baked in. It can get baked in at the, into your first prototype. It can get baked into when you're thinking about, diagramming a spreadsheet for your system. And there's also other things and other blind spots that we're just not aware of. And I think that's what a blind spot feels like, is you sit through it, you kind of scribble some notes, and you're like, I still don't really get it. An aha moment is when you start to, make those connections and figure things out. But, life isn't just a continual stream of aha moments. I mean, that would be great if it was. But it's there are times where you just kind of listen and you gather data, and then you process it, and then maybe you come to some conclusions or you try to change what you're doing. But this is a path. This is a journey. So there's this great quote from Holly Jean Buck during the session where she said, think about all the things that you can't see. And if you meet somebody who can clearly see something that you can't see, or that you don't want to see, or that you can't yet see, work with them, talk to them, bring them into your team. Like, nobody can see everything. You have to acknowledge that and work with people who can see the other pieces, and work with them, be their eyes, use their eyes to see what they can see, share what you can see, and just, live in this understanding that you can't see every single thing. Everybody has different experience. Everybody has, in some ways, maybe you think it's more limited thinking, but maybe their thinking is more expansive in another part. But you can't see everything. So work with other people, make friends, have discussions, come to workshops like the AirMiners Environmental Justice Workshop. And we're going to be doing another one. It's kind of TBD, but this whole thing this started as a conversation, and our hope is that more people have these thoughts and realizations, and an aha that, like, gosh, I thought everything to do with climate was automatically like all good because you have good intentions, and it turns out it's not. Or even aha, like, my aha moment was I was waiting for this aha moment and I didn't get it yet. So all that is exactly what we have in mind when we're bringing together people to have these discussions. This is important stuff. We're talking about building planetary-sized systems. That's the stuff that we are doing in order to pull a lot of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. And it means that we need to expand the boundaries of how we think about our system. I think probably the easiest way to expand the boundary is to draw a big circle around the whole planet. That's something that I learned in engineering school. It's just, you draw the boundaries of your equation, and you figure out what's actually in that system and what are the inputs and outputs. And I think with a lot of climate stuff, you just kind of draw that box bigger. And if you are lucky enough to have one of those aha moments, share it. AirMiners and the carbon removal community and the environmental community more broadly is still mostly male, mostly white. And so if you have an aha, that might be useful to somebody else. Maybe it's somebody that's new and joining, or maybe it's somebody that's been in the field for a long time. But if you have those moments, share them. And again, even a lack of an aha can in itself be an aha. It sounds kind of like a Zen thing. So you don't need to act like you know everything. You don't need to act like you can see everything. I think the best plans are ones that are collaborative. They come from multiple people who each bring their own piece of the puzzle to the table. So be grateful if you have a piece. If you feel like you have an aha moment, grab onto that, share it, and go find the other pieces.